The Fearless Podcast, in a time of deceit, telling the truth, is a revolutionary act. All right, y'all, welcome back to the Fearless Podcast. This is episode 39. And for those of you that are watching the video, you can see I have a very special guest in the studio. That would be my wife, Faith. Good evening, dear. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great. And now for all those folks out there in Radio Land, you're going to have to speak up and project yourself so that everybody can clearly hear you. We do have lots of audio problems. So tonight, y'all, we're going to break from our format a little bit. Well, no, actually, we won't break from our format. Normally, what we do is around the farm. Then we do a health check, and then we're going to get into our main topic. So I think what we'll do is we'll stick with our format, and we'll talk about around the farm, because we're going to be talking about that anyway. So we can, how about we're going to be talking about around the farm in the main topic. So we'll go right into health check. So just wanted to maybe you could give us a carnivore update, since you're of the genteel feminine sort, and see how that's been going for you. 300 plus days in, family of 8 carnivore. How's that?
Wow, that's
crazy. Any scurvy yet?
No scurvy. We're all doing great. We're thriving. And we just celebrated 2 birthdays in the house, and we were even able to, up until this point, we've done birthdays with ice cream. So we just totally took out the cake factor and just celebrated birthdays with ice cream. But these 2 birthdays were really special, and we just felt like we really had our bearings on carnivore at this point in the game, and I was ready to do something a little different. So also, dairy doesn't go well with our family. So there's been lots of seasons of taking out all the dairy and then trying some dairy. And then we're still trying to figure out that balance with our family with dairy, but we didn't want to go all in on ice cream and end up with ear infection. So I say all this to say that we found a keto box cake and a keto box brownie mix, and it went really well. It's, it's not perfect, but it was just a double birthday celebration.
It was an attempt. Is a valiant attempt.
Yes. And there was also a keto ice cream that we found at our local grocery store. And although it still had 20 grams of carbs per serving, it had 0 sugar. So whatever. So it was a compromise. Anyway, that's a carnivore update. Basically, other than that, we're just beef and eggs. Yeah. And my and we've stated this basically from the beginning. It's got to be sustainable. So you have to have your cheats or whatever. You can't be so puritanical, because it is kind of the same thing all the time, y'all. So it's so we're putting other redundancies in place with blueberries and raspberry bushes and all kind of cool stuff. All that stuff's going really well. Yes.
But yeah.
Because we do some berries, like the low sugar berries, like blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and I also have strawberries in our freezer. So that is something that we're really hyper focusing on the farm this year.
Yeah, because they are the dirty dozen. So we have Primark blackberries that do great every year. And I think I finally resolved our blueberry issues. So we have 4 variety of blueberry. We have 3 variety of black raspberry. I haven't had any success yet with raspberry. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that by not having to put all the time and effort into a garden this year, we can just hyper focus on the berries and just really, really get them going well. Just baby the heck out of them and really just get our berries in place.
And the rest of I think this is going to be a bumper crop for the rest of our food forest. Is as long as we don't get that early April last freak freeze, which
Yeah.
is highly probable, even though all of our trees are fully blossomed out,
It's
and it will be traumatic. But
it's
whatever,
a
this is welcome to Texas.
it's a gamble. It was funny because today at church, friends that they have a bunch of fruit trees too. She said their problem is squirrels, and she said like their plum trees, as soon as they get just about ready where you're going to pick them, the squirrels come in, and they've even like
Man, dude,
were
that's
like,
easy. That's called a pellet gun.
yeah, they've done that. They've shot squirrels,
Okay.
but it's just like every farm is just so different and unique that you just have your own problems, whether it's pests or squirrels
Yep.
or just your soil. It's just everything is so different. So that's why I'm really, really thankful to be focusing on beef this year.
Beef and berries.
Beef and berries are like our hyper focus. It makes prepping very, very easy. And also farm update. The boys are forestry mulching the new land.
Yeah, the new property, which we're going to talk about that in the main topic.
Okay.
And so before we switch to our main topic, I want to make y'all aware of a new affiliate that we have, foodforestnursery.com. So the Texas Boys 10 will give you 10% off over there at foodforestnursery.com. And they're awesome local nursery. They're located in Arkansas, and we got 4 or 5 trees from them. And then that's where I got my my black raspberries, and I got a couple new Asian pear varieties because the Asian pears do great. Asian pears do great almost anywhere. But if you go to foodforestnursery.com, you can select your plant growing zone, and they will show you what trees, berries, and support plants are best for your zone. So it's really cool. Check them out. The Texas Boys 10 to get 10% off. Now's the time to buy your bare root fruit trees. Now's the time to get them in the ground. So go check out the foodforestnursery.com and use the Texas Boys 10 for 10% off. So, episode 39, we never got to celebrate our 10th anniversary in Texas. So, as of February, we have been in Texas for a decade. And we usually do a video every year, why Texas, and we usually talk about like our anniversary and all these different things. And so I figured that would be a great topic in addition to discussing tactical relocation and some of these urban legends. I wanted to spell an urban legend about tactical relocation and what is happening in America, and this, whether or not it's a balkanization and all these good things. So 10 years in Texas. What say you? What say you, Faith? 10 years in Texas. Was it a mistake?
No, I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy. I get happier every year in Texas. I'm super thrilled that we are where we are. Thankful, humbled, and every year I appreciate it more. I appreciate the culture more. I appreciate the land more, the climate more.
Climate change.
Even, the political climate. I appreciate our conservative community even more. And it's just been wonderful. It's just been all wonderful. And the more we're here, the more we feel rooted and grounded in where we are. I just feel like that year after year.
And so for those of y'all that don't know, we have a lot of new subscribers to the podcast. We were originally from the Northeast. We moved 10 years ago with 3 boys. And we escaped.
Yes.
I think Kurt Russell did a movie or something like Escape from New York City, something like that. Very
Pretty
similar
much.
Very similar storyline.
Yes.
And it's shockingly similar now, but anyway, we escaped.
Yes.
And we walked to freedom. We came to Texas 10 years ago with 3 boys, and now we're a family of 8. and we're surviving. And we moved, and within about 8 months or so, we bought a little 5-acre property. And there's tons of kind of irony and fulfillment. There's so much. Almost every day, whether I'm getting ready to go to work, we all have, or at least I hope we do, and I use this term loosely, rituals, and I like to do grounding, and I'm like a tenderfoot kind of. I've grown up with baby feet, and so I'm trying to acclimate my feet.
It's a routine.
It's a routine. And every time I go out, I take my shoes and socks off, and I walk in the little bit of fresh grass we have in the front driveway. And I thank the Lord. I thank the Lord. And I honestly, and this happens every time. I think I wish everybody could experience this. Like whatever you're into and whatever your things are and whatever makes you happy. Because none, in a very real way, almost none of the things that we do on a daily basis technically did we do before we moved, and all these different things. So in essence, we're living a very different, much more intentional, much more slower paced, and fortunately we're living an anti-culture life in a way.
Yeah, very purposefully.
Yeah.
It's deliberate, and in order to keep our life peaceful, it's little decisions every single day that we choose to and it's not perfect.
Of course not. We're not perfect.
We fall out of balance in certain areas, and then we realign ourselves in different areas. So it's not perfect, but it's all just,
and there's not
adjusting.
A book, right? So it's not like, let me check the checklist.
No.
Oh no, we didn't do these 4 things. We better realign.
Because what's important to us in this season of life might not be as important in another season of life. And everybody's life is different. Everybody's family dynamics are totally different. So what we value as important might not be something that you value as important. So, but we just appreciate our life, I think, is what we're trying to say. And
and there's many facets to that, but there's this regional facet where, you're outside in February and it's 70 degrees and there's a light breeze, and you're watching the sun come up or whatever. And, there's that facet that's just kind of like, well, when you're from the Northeast, it's what I call the vacation facet. Like when you get to experience warmer weather, more consistently, it's kind of like this vacation vibe thing all the time. And even when it's really hot, but
we like warm vacations.
Yes. Yeah. So, we're Caribbean type people. We like clear blue water and warm vacations. And we've experienced all the snow, and I used to do a lot of snowboarding and all that stuff, but that's for people that like cold and stuff. That's not us.
It's beautiful.
That's why we chose this region to move to. So there's that facet of it. And then there's just the quiet peace facet of it. Then there's this third facet of when you look around, because when we bought this house, it needed a lot of help. It was a fixer-upper. The property needed more help than the house, and it was completely unkept, overgrown. The previous contents of the house that was gutted was in a pile in the backyard.
Several piles.
The tree line was within 50 feet of the house. And this is where all of these different joys come in where you reminisce. And for anybody that's been following the YouTube channel for whatever 8 years now, if any of them can even recall or remember, and unfortunately, I think we've even had to take a lot of these videos down because of them tubes, AI nonsense or whatever, because it's dangerous or whatever. I don't even know. Keep you guessing, because that's how you create a technocratic oligarchy, is you never quite know what
to say.
What's right and what's wrong, and purposefully, so that way you can always guess. So am I appeasing the artificial intelligence gods and all that stuff? But our boys at like 8, 6, and 5 cleared our back 5 acres with like hammers, sawzalls.
Yep.
And now there is a very large food forest. Now there's a very large pond. Now there is a 20 by 40 shop that the boys built completely by themselves with wood that they milled from their mill. And this speaks to the little choices you make every day and how you systematically move forward. And then to all the fencing, all the hog panel, all the barbed wire, all the T-posts. After 10 years and being about 8.5 years here, we have all this infrastructure that none of it happened overnight. None of it happened by accident. And it was lots of little decisions. And then you have this incredible irony of 10 years later, as we speak, at whatever time it is, 6 o'clock or whatever. Now the boys, the 8, 6, and the 5-year-old is 19, 16, and 15
in a blink.
And they're using a forestry mulcher and clearing the property next door that the Lord blessed us with. And the vision and the dream continues to expand, and the legacy and all of the abilities that they've acquired. The beauty of choosing to live a slower, more intentional life, to train up your children in the way that they should go, so when they are old, they shall not depart from it. Not only just to train them up with faith and family and values and biblical values and a Christian work ethic and all these different things, but living this intentional life and rejecting pop culture and living an anti-culture lifestyle. And when I say anti-culture, in essence, I'm saying anti-pop culture, because in a very real way, this Southern culture, we embrace it in a very different way, and we appreciate it, which is part of the reason why we chose to move 2,000 miles in the opposite direction of where we were from. And because that culture was very much opposite, and somehow still is, y'all. Somehow still is, by the grace of God. And but now these boys have matured. They have honed all these different skills, these polymath set of skills, and they can continue to carry that forward. And the work continues to get done, and progress continues to be made. And now we have all this infrastructure, fruit trees, greenhouse, all these different things that in 1,000 years, I would have never dreamed that it was even possible 10 years ago. It wasn't even an idea. I mean, it wasn't even like, oh yeah, I can just see all this, and then.
Well, the one thing that we had access to was time. And I think time, prioritizing our time by not being part of pop culture, not being part of all the local sports teams, not being part of all the local clubs, all the time stealers that there are to families, and you don't look at them like that. You look at them as, oh, these are positive activities that we can do. But when you are really trying to build a legacy for your children, and you're trying to develop land for your children and work ethic and just put all of these things in place, like the boys have done in the past 10 years, it requires a lot of sacrifice. And we had to really hyper focus, live on purpose, however you want to say it. We had to keep our vision in front of us. And it meant that we had to have this very singular vision of just every day. We were just doing the bare bones basics as far as like just eating, getting schoolwork done, and building our farm. And that built these now young adults. The oldest three are young adults, and us, like, in congruency with the community, with these pillars in our community, that, there's all of this wisdom, and, these men that have been raising cows forever and running farms forever. And they just kind of really took the boys under their wings to show them how to do things, and it's just fascinating. And then us, just being the parents and being like, let's build this chicken coop together. Let's rotate these goats around, the property. Let's do this. Let's do that. And we made a lot of mistakes. I think we made every mistake in the book with every type of animal.
Every type of critter.
But along the way, and lots of those animals and critters and systems all have gone by the wayside. But the things that have really stuck, the kids have perfected the experience of it. And not that we're there and they've reached perfection in it. They're still learning how to run a herd of cows. We're still learning as we go with it.
Well, but there's a reason why, as things mature, stuff changes, so it's not like it's ever going to stay the same. Just like as your food forest and your orchards mature, and you continue to, and trees die, and mentors die, and we didn't have resources back then like we have now either. So I remember, like, we were driving to church this morning and we went past this store and they had pallets out by the side of the building. And I looked at those pallets and I was like, oh my, I remember like the day when, like, I say day, but like the years that went by that, like, I would want to scoop up like every pallet that we saw. And we had, like, we lovingly called it like Pallet Palace, because like all of our fencing for all the animals was built out of pallets because we could afford that. That's what we could afford. So there was just lots of that. Like, we didn't have money to. Matt's first editing desk was made out of pallets. Remember that?
All of our first furniture was made out of pallets.
And that's, and even that, to say that, one, it almost seems like hard to even imagine now, but two, to all of your suburbanite, Pinteresty type, ew.
It took a sacrifice. I mean, hitting the reset button, totally, like, it just took sacrifice in every single area of our life. But
we perfected shabby chic.
Yes, we sure did.
We lived shabby chic.
We sure did. But it makes you appreciate so much. I mean, that's why we got home from church today, and before we could even turn around, Matt was out there on that forestry mulcher, is because he appreciates that. He just so appreciates that he can rent a machine now and go out there and clear his own land. And it's something that he is able to do. It's just.
Oh, it's so satisfying, fulfilling when you get done, especially with something like a forestry mulcher, where you can just go in and manicure your property with just pure unadulterated power. It's definitely a guy thing too, I think. But
and I know him. I know he's thinking like 10 steps down the road of like, okay, and then I'm going to plant whatever seed, and then I'm going to roll out hay, and then we're going to grow some grass, and then what kind, cows we're going to bring over here or whatever. Like, I know they're thinking ahead. Last year was the first steps of just getting all the perimeter fence up. This year, they've been working on more gate systems getting up, and now running the forestry mulcher. It's going to let all that sunlight come in, and they're going to be able to grow grass, and that's going to be next level.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we're gonna have more room for the horses and the cows, and room for more cows.
Yes.
And room for more homes, and they're already talking about a pond over there.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of brings up and speaks to this urban legend, and we hear this all the time, especially when we talk about relocating. Oh, don't encourage all these people to move to my state. They're going to ruin it, and all this stuff, and you're going to turn Texas blue or purple or whatever. But here's what I've experienced from personal experience, not from any type of poll online or the lamestream news or anything. So here we are incredibly rural.
Mm-hmm.
And our one neighbor is decades of Texan via Pennsylvania, California. And one of our incredibly great, sweet friends, he's been here in Texas, I don't know, probably 40 years or something like that. He came via California, but he's originally from Pennsylvania. And he's our one neighbor, and he's been our neighbor since we moved here. And then our other neighbor is from Colorado. And they are a beautiful, wonderful family. They're incredibly great neighbors. We work together. These are all part of our parallel economy, parallel community, parallel society. And what's fascinating is that we didn't even have to join a freedom cell or whatever, or go to a meeting or anything to find these people. These people live right next to us, right? And then a couple lots become available. We buy one. And then these other people buy the other one, and you're like, oh, great. What's this going to be all about? Mm-hmm. Who are these people? Where are they from? What's their deal? Mm-hmm. So we got to talk to them last week or whatever. And these people are beautiful, salt of the earth people. They are from the Pacific Northwest. Mm-hmm. And they came down here to be left alone and to shoot lots of pew-pews and to sawmill and to do all kinds of great things and to be left alone and to be unmolested by the tax man and the regulations and all these different things. And they greatly appreciate it. And this is the point I want to make. And one of my best friends that moved here from the Pacific Northwest, Mike, he's dyed in the wool, Texas, and he loves all things Texas. That and these are all of the core Texas tenets, like 1950s or whatever. Nothing modern, anti-culture, anti-pop culture, y'all. But yeah, so all of our neighbors, none of them are born here, raised here, what have you. And they all greatly appreciate what we have, and they want to maintain it. They want to nurture it. They want more of it. And I think that completely dispels and blows up and destroys this myth. And then I have all the different customers that I work with, of different people that are relocating. And I'm dealing with dozens of customers every week for the last 10 years. And I get talked to transplant. And every now and then you do get, another one of, he's not really of our neighbors, but he's one of our great friends, Spence. And he comes here via California. And now he's on his second property and he's developing that. And then our neighbor to the north, the permaculture consultant, he comes via Kansas / Oklahoma / Texas, then North Carolina back to Texas. Mm-hmm. And it speaks to it does speak to the culture, and it speaks to there are certain things that people desire in life, and it's not necessarily speaking tied to a geographical location. It's something more that's probably in you than is maybe in where you're going. And then for whatever reason, there's this really weird thing, which is why I wanted to move to the South. I'm from the Northeast. I did a year in Tennessee, and ever since then, I'm like, I want to move to the South because people are just nice. And I'm from the Northeast, and people just aren't, and there's lots of comedians that talk about that kind of stuff. Yeah, like people in the Northeast are just, and they just want to kill everybody, and who did it, and traffic and everything else, But it's all part of that artificial lifestyle and that concrete jungle and the commute and all of it. It all builds upon itself. And
and we lived on land up there. I mean, we had 5 acres.
Same size property that we have here.
We had chickens, we had dairy goats, we gardened, we did all that stuff. We prepped, but the climate around us,
the political climate.
Yeah. And like just the culture was very, it's way more intense. People are just more intense.
They're more self-absorbed, and they're more, they're more disconnected. They're more angry because their life is much more artificial. They cope by becoming more and more artificial, because that's how you cope. You escape, you go to the movies, you go to like movies back to back to back to back. You'll spend a Saturday in the movie theater or whatever. I mean, you escape reality, and you escape these different things that you kind of despise, and you numb yourself. And some people do it with alcohol and fentanyl and all the other artificial ways to do it. But the teetotalers and the people that don't imbibe and don't use drugs and alcohol to cope, they cope in synthetic, artificial ways through pop culture, through entertainment, through how do you detach, binge watching, whatever. And that's how they do it. And that just really is what creates that mean spirit. I don't know how else better to describe it, but I mean, just go experience it. I mean, I wish it wasn't like that. And I don't know why it's like that. And what makes, if you just drive 1,000 miles south, what makes it different? It was the Civil War. I'm not going to get into that story, but that's a different story for a different day. You can always read Tom DiLorenzo's books.
And it seems like even the West is more relaxed. Like it seems like they are culturally more relaxed than, I'm not talking the West Coast, but I'm talking about Midwest. Would you say Midwest, like Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. Like all of those states.
And I think it's because when your life in general is more tied to agrarianism too. You're forced to live a slower, more intentional life because that's the way everything goes.
Right.
It's just like when you're trying to round up cows or whatever, it rarely ever goes right. And so you can freak out and curse and scream, or, this is kind of how it goes. So, I could go kick the cow, but it's a cow. I could hurt the cow. What's that going to do? I'll probably hurt my foot. And why hurt the cow? The cow is doing what cows do. So it gives you more of a
patience.
More patience and a greater sense of reality. Because it's not on this time clock. It's not on this schedule. And it makes it much more real, slower. You appreciate it more. but that is, now here we are, fast forward 10 years, and we're 10 years into the future, and we went from 5 acres to almost 50 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that now in today's economic climate, that's completely unattainable.
Yes,
It's
that would be
unattainable.
unattainable by us right now. Yes, the Lord has been merciful to us. I mean, and when we came down, we didn't have 5 acres either. We had a rental property, and just
70 grand
hopes and dreams of someday owning a house again.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's all we had. So, so the Lord has just blessed us with this land, and we're just really, really thankful for it. And we just want to continue to let the kids just run with it, take it and run with it, make it their own, develop it, build houses on it.
This was the concept of the Wild West, right? And the whole idea of homesteading and the Homesteaders Act to like see what you could make of it, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about that's what I think is so critical about all of this and the process. And this is where some people miss, and even these people that are like, oh, I'm going to buy this property and then I'm going to pay all these guys all this money to do all this stuff to it. And then we're going to have this, whatever, mm-hmm. doomsday bunker, homestead, whatever. But
if you have the money to do that, more power to you. But
if you do have the money to do that, more power to you, but you're missing, it's not the destination. It is the journey.
Yes.
And it's just as much of what the land makes of you mm-hmm. As much as what you make of the land. And this is the opportunity, mm-hmm. For the boys to have this raw land mm-hmm. and to mold it and to make it mm-hmm. into what they want it to be, and to do it in a responsible fashion, using holistic management, regenerative agriculture, all these different things, that in a very real way, 20 years ago was like purple breathing hippie kind mm-hmm. of stuff. And now,
it's expensive to do it the conventional way.
Yes.
I mean, so.
And it's not sustainable the conventional way. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing now with hyperinflation and which will collapse the supply chains by mm-hmm. weight, by sheer weight. It's math. You have to take all of these things into account moving forward. However, that whole thing comes out the other side. But I was listening to a podcast with Justin Rhodes and Joel Salatin, and he was talking about, in conjunction with this whole homestead tsunami, mm-hmm. how the conservatives, and we're not liberals or conservatives, we're Christians, and that's not to belittle anybody. I'm a very jaded conservative. Like I don't think conservatives exist anymore. It's been completely co-opted. But Joel was talking about how basically the conservatives have co-opted all of this back to the land movement because, and originally, and there's a whole, that could be a whole other podcast, I guess, but there's a lot of real truth to that. And now people are seeing the need to compost and do these regenerative practices. One, really, honestly, just to be a good steward, and when you're blessed with so much, and rather than just live in this hyper consumer disposable society, to be responsible and to steward what you have in a holistic, regenerative way, because you appreciate what you've been blessed with, and, using this permaculture design science and man's interaction with God's creation to produce abundance. I mean, it really is, a lot of it really is just truth being made manifest in reality in everyday life. You know, it's the practical application of in many ways Christian living, but that's a whole other diatribe and rant as well.
Yeah. And I think that the one thing that most freedom loving states have in common is that they're very harsh climates. So if you're talking about any of the southern states, or if you're talking about any of the states that are beyond like Midwest, when you're talking about states like Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, any of those states, you're talking about Colorado, you're talking about harsh climates. You're talking about places that it is very difficult to thrive. And even though we live in modern society where we have all of the amenities, you know, we have equipment, we have tractors, we have a lot of things, still the reality is that historically the people that went there and actually thrived and survived those climates in all of their different diversity, that whether it's cold, extreme heat, extreme dry, whatever it is, you know, those people had grit and they wanted to be there and they were just determined to make it work. And I think that still holds true today. I mean, no matter what it is that we are trying to do, there is just a huge difference in growing cows on pasture in the Carolinas on the East Coast, or Washington State or something like that, and then growing cattle in Texas or Utah or Wyoming, right? There's a whole bundle of challenges that come with those states, that there's a reason why only the grittiest survive. And even
it's very good observation.
Yeah. I mean, when it's growing a garden, I mean, we were phenomenal at growing gardens, growing berry bushes, doing all of those kinds of things in the Northeast.
It was easy.
There was
Very
rain.
easy.
There was
Lots
rain.
of rain.
The temperatures were more temperate and more, you know, moderate.
It was much easier.
I mean, yeah, you'd have some heat in the summertime, but you had lots of humidity and you wouldn't have lots of rain and not extreme heat for very long. So in a lot of like the East Coast and then the West Coast, where life is easier, I think it's easier to grow food, to grow animals. Well, first of all, those places are extremely expensive. And, you know, it attracts these people that, nothing against it if that's your priorities in life, but you have all the accoutrements, right? You have all of the, you have all of that culture that you want on those coasts. But when you get into some of these cowboy kind of states,
Midwest,
yeah, if you get into, you know, Midwest, and I'm not even thinking of like, I mean, Illinois, they have extreme cold and stuff, but they still have rain. They still have very moderate summers,
and
right?
They have Chicago, and Illinois is just a terrible.
But I'm just saying, there are certain places like Ohio. I mean, Ohio is,
rest in peace, Illinois.
Ohio,
rest in peace.
I feel like you can grow anything there. There's places that are easier, I think, to live, to homestead, all of those types of things. But if you're pursuing freedom in different aspects of your life, like, you know, depending on what you prioritize as important in your life, with having freedom to do and live a certain lifestyle, you're probably going to end up in a more harsher environment. Sure. And you just have to really be determined that you're ready to handle that. You know, just be determined that, you know, your gardens are probably not going to succeed, you know, the first few years. It's all learning. Your animals aren't going to succeed. You know, it's just not that simple and easy.
Death acres.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have like, you know, lush grass.
We affectionately referred to our homestead as Death Acres for like the first 7 years.
Yeah.
Or so.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just the reality of it. And it's fine. It's something that we embrace, we grow with. It breaks you as a person, it humbles you.
Mhm.
And as you look around, you have to learn to live with the land and not fight against the land. So, there might be different things that you have read in books or you think you might hold to in a certain way, but then the reality of it on this land is very different, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And 10, and this is a reevaluation after 10 years, and we're 10 years ahead. And what I can say is, and we it kind of becomes platitudes like, when's the best time to plant a fruit tree 20 years ago?
Mhm.
And when's the second best time today? It's so true. It's just like, when you put up a fence line, you do it once,
Mhm.
and there's so much encouragement in that because, do you have to trees fall on fences? Do animals punch through fences? Do trucks drive through fences? Do you have terrible windstorms and it'll destroy fence lines? Yes, 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 yes. But in the larger picture, you put up a fence once. Of
Mhm.
course, everything you have to maintain and repair, but you put up a fence once, and much of these fences that we've put up, we've done it once, and then you learn and you redesign and you do different things. Many and most of these 400 fruit trees we planted once, and now we're in the reaping stages where we're starting to see the benefits of the fruits of our labor and all these different things. And it was all intentional. None of it happened by accident. Um, None of it happened without a plan or a purpose. None of it happened without goals. None of it happened without work. None of it happened without sacrifice. And it was completely intentional on purpose. And that's the other thing is there are large groups of people that are like, oh, I wish, or oh, we hear it all the time. Like, how do you get the boys to do all that stuff and to be, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But the grace of God, we worked together. We said, let's go. We did it together. When they're younger children, it has to go slower because you have to let them help you or do it, and it's slower and it's done wrong a lot of times, and they are exposed to peril. All right, we're raising men, so life's going to be a little bit dangerous. That's the reality. They can't live in a bubble. You can't grow bubble boys. It doesn't work. They're exposed to peril, to life, to reality. And that's the craziest thing to me, right? People will shelter their kids from a chainsaw and they'll expose their children to P. Diddy. All right. I'll let you break that down, however you want to break it down. But they're so afraid of their child operating a chainsaw, but they're so cool with their kids listening to P. Diddy. And one is antithetical to the other. And that was a decision that we made. And that is just, you can clearly anecdotally perceive that just by observation. That is observable fact.
Right.
And that is why we talk about anti-culture,
right,
and living an anti-culture life.
Yeah, and as much as it is anti-culture, like you said, it's anti-pop culture, because very much the boys are embraced, engulfed into our local culture here, whereas like they want to be like these older men that they see every day out working their cows, doing things like that's their superheroes, that's their people that they go to and ask.
These old guys aren't on TikTok.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's their, they go to the hardware store, they know all the guys at the hardware store, or at the, local gas station where all the old men meet and talk about whatever, or the cowboys are meeting in the morning to go work cows, and they get to rub elbows with these gritty people, and they get to ask them questions, and it's nothing that can be necessarily learned in a book. It's all trial and error, and they're learning these things from people, and it's just wonderful. The biggest thing I just go back to is time. I mean, the biggest gift that we've had with our children is time, and I'm just really thankful that my husband has been able to work really hard every day and sacrifice daily, working to provide me to be home with the children, to be really intentional and hands-on with them and attentive to them, and they have just grown up in this lifestyle where there weren't a lot of other options either. There wasn't other better things to do.
And these resources, right? These mentors, we just lost a mentor, right? But his wisdom will live on.
Mhm.
And the scarce resource, the non-replenishable scarce resource that we have in America, that is a fleeting, flickering flame, a dying flame, is this previous generation, these 60 and 70-year-old men that have been there, done that. They have the t-shirt. They cut the sleeves off the t-shirt, and the t-shirt's dirty. All right. And they have the experience and the knowledge and the know-how and just the sheer volume of experience, whether it's in this region or what have you, and preserving that.
Yes.
Our children are vessels to preserve that.
Yeah.
And once that's gone, it is gone forever.
And they wear it like a badge of honor. Like, they want to be that next generation. They want to hold up this culture and to go on and be those gritty men. And they want to be those true, just men that serve other people, men that aren't so fast paced that they can slow down and help other people and just put themselves out there. Like, they've just had such great examples in our local community, and just these self-sacrificial people that have poured into their lives, and it's just really made an impression on them, and it helps them. It helps us as parents to be better people, to love our neighbors more, and just to put ourselves out there more. It's just, when you're surrounded by really great people, it really just lifts you up as a person.
And it encourages you, and it, statistically, numerically, and everybody's saying it, and most people have been saying it over and over again, maybe for too long, about the shoe's going to drop, and we get it, and it is, it's a statistical fact, and fiscal irresponsibility, everything, border. There's so many different things to point to, but it's so encouraging when you just have a great community of people that love and care for each other and serve each other and work together. And this is really what America is all about. Not like the red, white, and blue, and proud to be American, all that stuff. No, nothing like that. That's all military industrial complex propaganda. But America is about loving your neighbor and appreciating and caring for one another and supporting each other, regardless of what color you are. And in spite of the postmodern deconstructionism, right? And this is once again, anti-culture, because anti-culture is anti-postmodern deconstruction. So how do you combat postmodern deconstruction? Well, you remember the ancient landmarks, right? and you hold to eternal beliefs, that things that don't change, like,
Mhm.
you know, men are men and women are women, and all these basic obvious things that now people are somehow confused about. And that's all quintessential with this
Yes.
slower, intentional lifestyle.
Yes.
That's how they do, dude. That's how they've re-brainwashed and reprogrammed everybody
Yes.
through the synthesized Babylonian concrete jungle,
Absolutely.
5G, you know, zap you, slap you,
Yeah. And
pack you,
I
track
think that
you,
was
stack you.
the one thing that was really, really important to us too, is to be able to raise boys with grit, like raise boys that had just this grit, you know, just this toughness. They were boys. They were going to be men. You know, I wasn't raising boys anyway. I was raising men. I talked to them like they were young men always. I gave them that respect. I required the same amount of respect back. And the same with raising our little girl. You know, I'm not raising a silly little girl. I'm raising a young woman, you know, who is going to, you know, she already says it. She already rehearses all of the things that she's going to do and that she aspires to do. And they all are feminine in nature. They are all the roles, all the things that she aspires to are feminine in nature, and that's purposeful. You have to, in today's day and age,
She was born that way, y'all. I'm sorry.
in today's day and age, it doesn't just happen. You don't just have
Right.
masculine boys. You don't just have feminine girls. The culture is against you. The world is against you. If you want to have children that are masculine and feminine, you have to purposefully do that. If you want children that are, you know, not in pop culture, you have to purposefully do that. If you want children that have work ethic, you have to purposefully instill that. And we haven't claimed ever to do anything perfect. And we have not arrived yet. We still have 3 young ones to raise. But the beauty of it is that they're looking at their older siblings, and they are
role models.
They are their heroes,
Yeah.
you know, and they're the ones that have grit. And our little boys are already saying, I want to be like this one. I want to be like that one. I want to build this. I want to do the sawmill. And it's just like, you know, the Bible speaks a lot about parents that pour into their children, and, you know, there's promises there that, you know, if you, raise them according to God's word to glorify the Lord, there are promises. It's not 100%. There are no guarantees.
And that's anti-culture. That's anti-culture. God, you know, the saddest thing about postmodern Christianity is God somehow, in this postmodern, post-truth world, God convalesces to the culture, and God is different now, and love is love. And, you know, and there's people that are against this new postmodern deconstructionism, but they still can't get around the fact that they still think they have to be culturally relevant or something. Right. And, you know, there's this whole cool factor, whether it's the, you know, cigars and cognac or whatever. I mean, I don't get any of it. And I'm thankful that I don't get it. But this has been episode 39 of the Fearless Podcast. And this is a value for value proposition. And if you do appreciate and love and enjoy the type of information that we disseminate, please go on over to the texasboys.com and check out our CBD coffee. It is on sale. And if you haven't tried it, you are going to love it. And it is locally roasted. The CBD is locally raised and harvested here. It's locally infused. It's a micro roaster, and it is out of this world incredible. And we love and appreciate y'all. And anything in closing, Mother?
We're still happy in Texas.
10 years and loving it. We can't wait for the next 10.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Well, remember, stay fearless, my friends.